One day, not very far from now, people will look back at our time and say, it was all already written, but almost no one noticed. On December 8th, we celebrate the Immaculate Conception. For many, it's just a beautiful Marian feast, a procession, a few candles, a few distracted Hail Marys. But there is a detail almost no one connects. The mystery of the Immaculate is tied to two places and two prophecies that touch the future of the world. A remote grotto in Lourdes, a forgotten village called Fatima, and a message that sounds like this: "In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph." What does that really mean? What does the Immaculate Conception have to do with Russia, with wars, with the crisis of faith we see today? And above all, is this triumph just a poetic image, or something we are already living without realizing it? This is not just another devotional video. It's a journey that starts from the dogma of the Immaculate and leads to a more uncomfortable question. Why does the dogma of the Immaculate Conception mark our future today more than ever? Let's start here because it's important. Many people think Immaculate Conception means that Jesus was conceived without sin. But that is the mystery of the Incarnation. The Immaculate Conception is something else. It means that Mary, from the very first instant of her existence, was preserved from original sin. In simple words, while all of us are born with a wound in our soul, that inclination to evil, selfishness, rebellion, Mary is not. Not because she is better than us by her own merits, but because God, looking in advance at the merits of Jesus' cross, saved her ahead of time. Mary is the only human being who lived her entire existence without ever being touched by sin. That's why we call her immaculate, without stain, without shadow, without compromise with evil. This dogma is officially proclaimed by the Church on December 8, 1854 by Pope Pius IX. But if the Immaculate is so important, why does God a few years later decide to unveil this mystery not through theologians and cardinals, but through an illiterate girl in a remote grotto? We are in 1858 in Lourdes in the south of France. A 14-year-old girl, Bernadette Soubirous, is poor, sick, and uneducated. She hasn't studied theology, she doesn't know the manuals, she doesn't read the newspapers. One day, while she goes to gather firewood, she sees a lady in a grotto. The lady smiles at her, invites her to pray, asks her for penance for sinners. The apparitions continue. The parish priest prudently says to Bernadette, "Ask her her name. We cannot believe in a beautiful lady without knowing who she is." Bernadette obeys. During one of the apparitions, she asks, "Lady, would you be so kind as to tell me your name?" The answer comes after some time. The lady looks up to heaven, clasps her hands over her chest, and says, "I am the Immaculate Conception." Bernadette does not understand. She repeats the words along the road so she won't forget them. She reaches the parish priest and repeats them exactly as she heard them. "I am the Immaculate Conception." The priest turns pale. That term, defined as a dogma only 4 years earlier, was something Bernadette could not have invented. She did not even know what it meant. It was precisely this detail, such a precise theological formula on the lips of an ignorant child, that made the Church understand that there was no trick, no fantasy, no collective illusion there. It was as if heaven were saying, "You have proclaimed the dogma. Good. Now I will show it to you in history." Mary is not just confirming a dogma. She is saying, "This is not a secondary detail. I am the Immaculate Conception. This is my identity. It is the key to everything I will do in the world in the last times." And here Fatima comes onto the scene. 1917. The world is at war. In a remote village in Portugal, 3 shepherd children, Lucia, Jacinta, and Francisco, are tending their sheep. They are simple children, poor, unschooled, just like Bernadette. And yet, it is to them that Mary chooses to entrust one of the most astonishing messages of the 20th century. On May 13, 1917, a lady brighter than the sun appears to them. She does not immediately present herself as the Immaculate Conception, but she draws the children to herself with a deep tenderness, with a seriousness that is not of this world. She speaks of prayer, penance, conversion. But above all, Mary begins to speak of something no child like that could ever invent: Russia, wars, and the errors that will spread throughout the world. And as an antidote, Mary proposes a path: the Rosary, consecration to her Immaculate Heart, reparation. And she pronounces a sentence with prophetic weight: "In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph." Here we reach the central point of our video. So, the Immaculate is not only pure on a personal level. Her Immaculate Heart is God's plan for this phase of history. As if God were saying, faced with a world that rejects Christ, I place before evil a woman without sin, a heart without compromise, a refuge for those who do not want to belong to darkness. There is a detail of Fatima that often passes quickly, but today, in the light of the events in the Church and the world, it makes one tremble. During one of the visions, little Jacinta sees a mysterious scene: a pope who is praying while people hurl insults and stones at him, a pope who weeps over the war and over the souls that are being lost. Jacinta, reporting this to Lucia, says that this pope suffers greatly and that the Immaculate Heart of Mary is deeply united to that suffering. She does not give a name, she does not mention dates, but when, many years later, the popes of the 20th century begin to read and meditate on the message of Fatima, some of them feel within themselves, there is something here that concerns me personally. John Paul II, after the assassination attempt of May 13, 1981, will say that one hand fired the shot, but another hand guided the bullet. And he does not hesitate to call that other hand by name: the hand of Mary. A wounded pope on the day of Fatima who attributes his survival to the Immaculate Heart. A world suspended between war and peace, between faith and apostasy. Pope Francis himself, by consecrating Russia and Ukraine, has confirmed to the world that we are still fully inside this prophecy. Do you realize? These are not medieval legends. These are events that have marked recent history, in front of cameras, inside geopolitics, inside the life of the Church. At this point, a question arises that you may be asking yourself as well. If Mary promised that her Immaculate Heart will triumph, why do we still see wars, hatred, confusion in the Church and in the world? Here we need to make an important distinction. When Mary speaks of a triumph, she is not promising a perfect world, a sort of earthly paradise where everyone is kind and good. The triumph is something more mysterious and deeper. It is the victory of grace over sin in many souls. It is the birth of a generation of Christians who, despite 1,000 weaknesses, choose to remain with God and Mary until the end. It is the fall over time of the great idols of history, ideologies, anti-Christian systems, powers that think they are eternal and yet are only statues of sand. When, at Fatima, Mary speaks of Russia spreading her errors throughout the world, she is not talking only about one country, but about a model of society without God, where man thinks he can build paradise with his own hands and ends up building only new hells. The Immaculate Heart triumphs when a person stops living as if God did not exist, when they choose the gospel and begin to really live it. It is not as spectacular as fireworks, but this is how God changes history, one heart at a time. There is another anecdote that few know, but that is tied to our theme. It is said that Pius XII, in the 1950s, one evening, while walking in the Vatican gardens, saw in the sky something very similar to the miracle of the sun at Fatima. The sun spinning, changing colors, seeming to fall, and then returning to its place. He alone, the Pope, was the witness of a sign that reminded him strongly that the message of Fatima was not a local phenomenon, but something that concerned the entire Church. Why does God show these signs? To impress us? To make us say, wow? No. The signs serve this purpose, to awaken our conscience and tell us, the time of grace is now. Do not wait to see the sun dance. Start changing your life today. At this point, the risk is to say, okay, beautiful, interesting, mystical, prophetic, but what do I have to do with Lourdes, Fatima, popes, Russia, wars? The truth is this. While we look at the big story, Russia, wars, popes, each of us is fighting an invisible war in our own life. And here the message of Lourdes and Fatima becomes not only global, but also personal. It is not enough to say what a beautiful feast the Immaculate is. You have to decide whether you want to live with Mary or just talk about her every now and then. But let us not forget where we started. What is the link between the Immaculate Conception and the future of the world? The world is heading toward ruin because it is enslaved to the logic of sin, selfishness, violence, oppression. It is like a virus from which no one is immune. But God created the Immaculate precisely for this. Since she is the only creature over whom evil has never had any power, the Immaculate is not just a statue to be venerated. She is God's strategic weapon. The future of the world depends on her because only a heart totally free from evil can stop the spiral of hatred we are building with our own hands. Without the Immaculate, the world is condemned to repeat itself. With her, there is a way out. Now, the time has come to decide. Which side do you want to be on? Do you want to live these years of history as a frightened spectator, or as a child who takes refuge in the heart of a mother? If you have stayed with this video until now, I ask you for something concrete, to turn listening into a small shared act of faith. Write in the comments, as a public prayer, simple but powerful, Immaculate Heart of Mary, I trust in you. It is a way of saying, evil is loud, war is frightening, confusion seems to reign, but I choose the side of the Immaculate Heart. I believe that in the end, your heart will also triumph in my life. Let us fill the comments with a single invocation. Immaculate Heart of Mary, I trust in you. Because perhaps the triumph of the Immaculate Heart begins right here, with a people of little ones, hidden, imperfect, who nonetheless choose to trust.